So next week is the Nobel week. Maria Corina Machado will receive the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo, Norway, where we hope that she will be able to attend, even though she's been in hiding in Venezuela, and she's obviously not allowed to leave the country for the dictatorship. But if she can leave and come to Oslo, we will see her there. And hopefully I will be able to get an interview. Nothing is clear yet, but I'm working on it. So we have a viewer here. Well, let me tell you now why I'm making this live. I'm making this because I want everybody to know that today is a day of global protests and demonstrations and manifestations in favor of peace and freedom in Venezuela. And today in Sweden, there will be two. In Stockholm at Katarinahissen, 4:30 p.m. That's in a little bit over an hour. And in Göteborg, Kungsportsplatsen, I think it's called. It's in the description here, at 16:45, 4:45. I cannot go because I live far away from both of those. But next week I will be going to Oslo, Norway. And there, the actual day of giving Maria Corina Machado the Nobel Peace Prize is the 10th, Wednesday. But I will go there a little bit before to be able to see the environment, to meet people. A lot of Venezuelans are coming to Oslo from all over the world because remember, the Venezuelan diaspora is absolutely huge. About 8 million people have left the country. And a lot of those will obviously go back home. As soon as Venezuela becomes free again, they will go home. And let me take this opportunity to talk a little bit about what's going on in Venezuela, because there's so many news now regarding Trump and the Navy in the Caribbean that people tend to forget, the media forget to talk about what is Venezuela. And one thing that bothers us a lot, us who fight for the freedom in Venezuela, is that they talk about Venezuela as if the dictatorship was the country. It's not. The regime is one thing. The nation is another thing. You have to keep those two things apart, regime and nation. Especially when it's not a democracy. In this case, the regime is a transnational organized crime group that are controlling the country. But the nation are the Venezuelans, the about 30 million Venezuelans. That is the nation of Venezuela. And the nation of Venezuela has elected Edmundo González Urrutia as president. But the regime, the usurper regime of Venezuela, does not allow him to take office. So that's why there is this big difference between regime and nation in the case of Venezuela. Edmundo González Urrutia will be, I think that's confirmed, that he will be in Oslo. In fact, on Thursday, the University of Oslo at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. have a forum to discuss democracy and the threat to democracy. That is something that I have been active in, fighting for democracy and fighting against this global drive to destroy democracy. I've done that since 2009. I've been an activist every free hour of the day, basically, since 2009 for democracy. So I know in America specifically, because that's where I lived before. So I know pretty much about that. And I've been involved in the Venezuelan resistance to observe this from the inside since 2011. And we have, that way, I've had access to sources inside the country. So I know, I would say, my Venezuelan friends who know what I'm doing tell me that there can't be anybody in Scandinavia who knows more about Venezuela than me. I'm saying that myself because they are not here and they don't speak English. But that's so you know where I'm coming from. I know very well what's going on in Venezuela. But in these events in Oslo, I will not be taking part in any of the events because here in Scandinavia, nobody knows who I am. So I'm not even invited to any of these events. So I will be reporting from the street in Oslo, where all these Venezuelans who are coming from all over the world will be, because obviously they aren't invited either. Regular people are not invited to these kind of events where the celebrity or those in positions of power, they meet and discuss the future of the world. But we, the regular people, are not invited to those events. So I will be talking to regular people in Oslo. If you want to hear regular Venezuelans and regular people talk about what they think is going on with democracy, then subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because there is no way for me to pre-schedule the lives. Unfortunately, I can only schedule one live at a time. And since I have more than one channel, that means I can only schedule it like a few minutes in advance. This one, for instance, it turned out I couldn't even schedule it 5 minutes in advance. It was lost, so I had to start it without pre-scheduling. So the only way you're going to find out when there is a live is if you have notifications on, unfortunately. I will also be broadcasting in Spanish in the channel Operación Libertad Venezuela for the Venezuela and Latin American audience. So that's my main point of this live, is that next week I will be doing a lot of broadcasts about democracy and freedom and the fight for safeguarding the way of life as we know it, because it is under threat, it is under attack. It's a global attack. Criminals are taking over, unfortunately, more and more. And when I say criminals, I mean basically anybody who is going beyond what is morally acceptable. Because there are crimes like the capital sins that are not sins in the law. They're not crimes according to the law, but they're crimes against human civilization and coexistence. What happens is that once people who commit greed, for instance, get into positions of power, which they do by paying political parties and politicians, and now paying social media farms so that they can get thousands and millions of robots that enforce their message on media platforms like YouTube. That's how they can give the impression that the public opinion is in one place, whereas in reality, public opinion may be in a totally different place. So money is taking control, has taken control of democracy. And we are sailing up to a very, very dangerous place in society. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing a book right now, which will come out in 2026 about prehistory, because these cycles repeat, where you have society that's functioning, some people are taking control more and more, they go more and more overboard with their egoism, how do you call it in English? Selfishness. They go more and more overboard with what they want, and it's often greed, because power corrupts. Power corrupts. So the more power they have, the more they try to hold on to power, and they do everything to prevent normal people from having an influence. They want normal people to just pay taxes and stay quiet while they do what they want. And eventually, when they go more and more overboard, eventually people will rebel. And that can be more or less bloody, but that's happened over and over in history. And it's not a nice thing to watch, and it destroys civilization and then civilization has to start anew. And that's why we know so little about it, because after a thorough revolution, there is no memory left of what came before it. So we are in dangerous times now, and this could be much worse than World War II. And therefore, it's in our interest to really fight for freedom and peace and democracy and rule of law and national sovereignty. Because once we lose those things, it's very hard to get it back, and it's going to cost a lot of suffering and blood and pain. So let's fight for freedom and democracy, and let's not look the other way when a small group of people are trying to take it away from us. This week, the week that comes, it's going to be about Venezuela. But Venezuela is just a canary in the coal mine. It was the first country to fall through this kind of manipulation. And you know which the last is? The last one, or the latest, I should say. You know which the latest is? The latest is the United States. And the United States is a much bigger prize and much more dangerous when that finally falls. Because in Venezuela, the fight stopped. We had to stop it. Because the regime was doing a genocide by starvation. The policy of the regime in Venezuela was to not give people any food until they stopped protesting. So the option was die of starvation or leave the country. And they left the country. That's why there are 8 million refugees outside Venezuela. 8 million, 1/3 of the population left. In the US, people are still fighting, and hopefully they will win. But what we're seeing now in the Caribbean and the sail up of the conflict is that we have two dictators. Maduro, who took power in Venezuela illegally, and Trump, although he claimed he won the election, and Trump, who claimed he won the election, took power in the United States. And obviously what he's doing is totally, utterly illegal and unconstitutional and against international law, everything. And there are also very, very clear signs that there was election fraud behind that helped Trump get elected. There is a group called ETA, election, I think it stands for Election Transparency Audit or something like that. Look it up in YouTube. They still have way too few people who follow that channel. It's very important what they do, but they don't have any deep pockets, no rich sponsors who help them. So that's a totally grassroots driven campaign to show the election fraud. The election fraud that was done in Venezuela starting 2004 was done in the United States. It's the same group of people, the same method. But some people have been saying, erroneously, Venezuelans have been saying that it is the Democrats in the US that were doing that. No, it was always Trump. It's the Republicans who do that because they are the minority. It makes no sense for the majority to rig the elections. They don't have to. It's the minority that has to rig the elections to win. So Trump and Maduro are two sides of the same coin. And that's why now see this thing coming up in the Caribbean. I'm sitting back just watching because this is a déjà vu all over again for me. Although I wasn't born back then, but it reminds me of what happened when Stalin was the dictator of the Soviet Union. He did the Holodomor in Ukraine, just like Maduro did in Venezuela. And then came Adolf Hitler and was opposing Stalin and got support by some because he opposed Stalin, including Vidkun Quisling from Norway, who later became the Kungsportsplatsen, who ruled Norway for the Nazis. He had been opposed to Stalin, and that's why he had backed Hitler. After the war, he was put in front of a court and executed. So that's why I'm not taking side for Trump. By no way. I'm an American citizen, but there is no way I'm going to say, okay, what he's doing is good because it helps Venezuela get free. Both are doing bad things. Maduro and Trump are doing bad things. If we want peace and freedom, we in the world have to help the people of Venezuela. Not help another dictator make a deal, a backroom deal with the dictator in Caracas and split the profits between them at the expense of the people. No, no. We have to be for peace and freedom for the people in Venezuela and in the United States, in both. And that's why we have to be for that and active in that. And we can't afford to just sit back and scroll cat videos in TikTok when the world is about to end before our eyes, possibly. This is serious. This is very serious business. So I won't make this much longer now. I've been talking for almost, well, a quarter of an hour, but I will be in Oslo next week, and I will be talking about these topics with everybody I can meet there and interview, because this matters. Thank you for watching. Sign off. If I can find the button, I think it's up there. Let me see.